Nalani with Synthetic here, and we're going to be going and making this plain piece of MDF into a nice autumn travertine that we have here. It's going to be dirty pour, and we actually did this one this time based off of something that was requested from one of our customers. We'll go about doing that, and we'll show you the steps that go into trying to edit previous recipes into trying to make a specific look or result come out.
So first we're going to take our board and we're going to sand down any rough edges that we might have gotten, any rough points or beading that we might have gotten from our router. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get our roller and paint over our high style beige color onto our now prepped and prepared sample board. We need to do a total of 2 coats on there, sanding in between each coat. Now we're going to take our painter's tape, any particular brand will do, and we're going to wrap it around our board. We need to make sure that we double up on the wrapping around there. We need to make sure that everything's nice and waterproof so that none of the epoxy leaks through any edges, and we need to make sure we go over it in 2 passes. We need to make sure there are 2 layers of our painter's tape because epoxy is a bit of a heavier liquid, and so it will press up against those sides, and we don't want it to just press up against it and flow over it.
Doing a dirty pour on one of our sample boards. What we've been given here is a porcelain sample by one of our customers to match sort of what it has here. Now, you'll see here on this camera, we'll be panning to a side view, is there's this porcelain here that is meant to mimic travertine. It's a bit more almond than it is normally. They call this almond tarsus. And as you can see, it's very flat and it doesn't give as good a look as the actual stone. So we're going to be making a similar color, similar mind you, and we're hoping to make it a little bit, just take it that step further, both in 3Dness as the epoxy naturally does, but also as far as visual goes.
Okay, so to make our autumn travertine recipe, the ingredients we'll need is first an antique white Rust-Oleum spray as well as an opaque brown dye. Those 2 mixed together will make our wash coat. It's just the thing we spread on the board to make it lubricated. Next, the only other dye we're going to need is an opaque white, and for our other Rust-Oleum sprays, we will have hammered copper, white, silver metallic, and French beige, and the only other additives we have are a diamond dust additive and a pearl additive. So what we're doing here first is we are mixing a 1-to-1 ratio of parts A and B of our epoxy mix, and we're getting a drill and we're mixing that for about 2 minutes. And what I like to do is I like to go in an up and down motion and kind of around the sides to make sure that all of it is just thoroughly mixed. What we're going to do is first, out of the cups that we're going to be mixing up the colors in, we're first going to get our wash coat, and we're just going to put that opaque brown in, as well as we're going to spray a Rust-Oleum spray into there. I'm going to mix that together, and what our wash coat does is it just makes sure that the board is pre-lubricated for when we're pouring out our epoxy. See, liquid mostly likes to bead up in one place. If you've ever seen a water droplet, it's similar to that, and that especially is the case with viscous liquids like epoxy. So doing this just helps to make sure that the board is nice and damp and ready for the whole thing to just flow all over the board. And so we're just going to do that and make sure we get up in all the nice corners and nooks and crannies so that way it just flows everywhere really smoothly. As well as it gives a really nice effect. That's why we have the dark color specifically. It gives us this nice border around some of our streaks. Just very pleasant. Okay, and so we're going to be mixing together our various colors in separate cups, and what you might want to be and pouring them into our bucket. And what you might want to be doing is in between some of the cups that you're pouring, you might want to spray some of those different Rust-Oleum spray colors into there. It'll just help to layer the colors and give it a really nice effect in the final product if you do those in between the various cup pourings. Now, when you see me pouring out, kind of putting upside down the cups onto, after I've already scraped out as much as I could into the bucket, onto our board. It's just to help get it that extra little bit of lubrication, since you just can't have too much of that, and it just helps to get every little bit out. So now we're just going to take those back off and going to pour out our nice pour bucket now. Now what we did is we went in a sort of diagonal line, sort of this diagonal flow pattern onto our board. You can go ahead and do horizontal if you want to. It's just what we decided would be nice for this one. It just depends on which way you want the movement to be going. So we are going to get our torch here, and we're going to torch that out, and what that does is it helps us to warm up the epoxy so that way it flows nicely when we're about to tip it to give some nice blending and movement, as well as it helps to get out any bubbles from the epoxy, that way they don't rise to the surface and blemish as it's curing. Now, we just tipped it back and forth a little bit. You can tip it a variety of ways, whichever way you think would be best. And it just helps to make it flow in certain ways, whichever way you want your movement of stone to be going. It makes it look more natural, as if gravity tugged some of the colors this way and that. Okay, and so with that, we just let that sit before we took the tape off to let it flow over the edges, and this is the end result. Really like how that diamond dust shows up, and it's nice. Gives it this nice textured sparkle in there. Our client really loved that. What the objective was here is not necessarily to get a perfect match, but to get something that would pair well with our false travertine. And so this project is considered to be a success, and is very pleasant to look at, very pleasing to the eye. Came out very nice. Our client loved it. And from all of us here at Stonethetic, built by you, built for less, built to last. And we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.